The Safari Zoo Mallorca has been one of the most controversial zoological facilities in Europe for years. Time and again, the park has faced criticism over its animal welfare standards, and incidents such as the escape and death of 2 chimpanzees in 2015 have further shaped a bad reputation. But now things might change for the better. Only recently it became known that a new operator has taken over the zoo and is announcing extensive improvements. And this operator is anything but unknown in the zoo world. But before we take a look at what the future might hold, let's first focus on the current situation. How serious are the problems really, and what would need to change for the zoo to have a good future? To answer that, let's take a closer look at the park. The Safari Zoo Mallorca is located on the east coast of the island, near Sa Coma. It was founded by the German animal dealer Hermann Ruhe in 1969, before taking on its current form in the late 1980s under the management of another German secret Menz. The park is divided into 2 parts, as you can already see from the map. First, there is the big safari area, and then a smaller walk-through zoo section. For an extra fee, you can drive through the safari in your own car, otherwise you wait here at the entrance gate for the safari train and can pass the time by watching a few ostriches. The experience here could already be improved quite a bit if there were a cafe or at least a vending machine with drinks and snacks. Once the train sets off, it winds its way through a roughly 13 to 14 hectare safari area, which at least offers plenty of space for most of its inhabitants. Among others, you'll find zebras, wildebeest, the impressive Watusi cattle, eland antelopes, and also lechwe, which are incorrectly referred to as conchs on the zoo's website. Yeah, not quite. It's not just African species though. Asian blackbucks and nilgais can also roam the area almost completely freely. The same applies to the Hamadryas baboons, which are not kept in a separate section but can move throughout the entire safari area as far as I can tell. And since 2 of the baboons even used our train to get from A to B a bit faster, they were certainly the highlight of the safari experience for me. However, I did have a slightly uneasy feeling during the ride, and not because it was bumpy. The road also passes by a few separated enclosure. The first one you see here is still relatively large and reasonably well designed and houses a single white rhinoceros. And yes, aside from the rather underwhelming visual impression, the hippo enclosure with its water pool, shaded areas and decent overall size is not a disaster. However, only a single hippo was lying in the water, and for such a social species, that is clearly less than ideal. Though even more confusing was that there was only a single flamingo visible in the enclosure directly opposite. And now, let's just take a guess how many giraffes there are. Yes, also just 1. And so, beyond the condition of the parkway itself, there are also clear signs in the animal numbers that the Safari Zoo Mallorca has seen better days. One reason for this may still be the severe storm that destroyed large parts of the vegetation here in 2001. And yes, that was a while ago, but the before and after images on the website are quite shocking. Overall, the safari was still quite an enjoyable experience, especially for my girlfriend who had never visited a safari park before, and for me as well, it still ranks 5th among the safari parks I've visited so far, though I've only been to 5 in total, so take it for what it's worth. The much bigger issue, however, is the zoo section, which we now explore on foot. Right next to the car park is an area with a cafe and a playground offering a place to relax and let children play. Next to this lies a double island enclosure for crab-eating macaques, which is visually not particularly impressive, but still reasonably acceptable in terms of layout and furnishing. The macaques here are probably among the best of primate species in the entire park alongside the baboons. There are quite a few primates here. Among Old World monkeys are siamangs, grazers, white-handed gibbons, and green monkeys. In terms of New World monkeys, there are Geoffrey spider monkeys and white-faced capuchins. Lemurs are also represented by one species, and as you can tell, yes of course, that species are ring-tailed lemurs. So even without chimpanzees or mandrills, which used to live here as well, there are still some interesting primate species here, but the joy of seeing them was diminished by the way we have to see them here. The cage-like enclosures all feel outdated and are mostly far too cramped, so the occasional observation of stereotypic behavior was not a big surprise. The spider monkeys are probably the best of here, as their enclosure is at least somewhat acceptable in terms of space. Beyond the primates, the small zoo section also includes several aviaries, mostly housing parrots. Unsurprisingly, these are also far from model examples of modern animal husbandry, but they are not the main issue here. And as it turns out, in what is likely the most aesthetically pleasing aviary, there are yet a few more flamingos to be seen. At this point, you may notice that I'm not particularly motivated to go into every single detail here. The overall picture is simply very similar everywhere, whether red-necked wallabies, emus and nandus, axis deer, donkeys, guanacos, or even pot-bellied pigs and goats. They all live in enclosures that are at best acceptable and visually unremarkable. Well, regarding the small reptile house, it should at least be noted that some of the reptiles benefit from Mallorca's climate, allowing them regular access to outdoor areas. However, even this advantage is not really well used to create enclosures that stand out positively in any noteworthy way. So it is perhaps even the best news that the old big cat enclosures are now all empty. For decades there used to even be a circus-style show with them. Now there are no more leopards, there are no more tigers. All that remains are the lions, which are now more than ever an important highlight species here. Their enclosure, best viewed through a glass panel, is reasonably acceptable as it combines a bathing pool, rocks and basic furnishings within an otherwise structurally uninspiring space. The one truly unsettling element is this small holding cage, where a lion can just about turn around in a comfortable way. Finally, we also need to talk about the elephant keeping. Yes, there are still Asian elephants here, although the plural is clearly inappropriate. It is a single elderly elephant that has been given a donkey as company. In America, this could be a political statement. But one thing is clear, a donkey cannot replace the social interactions with another elephant. The enclosure, which can be overviewed from a viewing platform, is not particularly large even after an extension, but it does offer solid basic furnishings with enrichment and a relatively large bathing pool. Nevertheless, we end up with an overall impression that is anything but positive. Or, to put it bluntly, the Safari Zoo Mallorca is one of the worst zoos I've ever visited. The safari section is certainly a large and reasonably well-designed habitat for the animals, but beyond that, almost everything here is in need of major renovation. To be fair, I should mention that I simply missed a more remote area area during my visit where native turtles, tortoises and frogs are bred for reintroduction projects, this would likely have been one of the few clearly positive aspects. But that brings us to a brighter note, because the new owner planning to overhaul the park is not just anyone. It is the Spanish company Rainforest, which already developed and operates Bioparc Valencia and Bioparc Fuengirola, among others. I have already shown you Bioparc Valencia in a previous video, and a video on Bioparc Fuengirola will follow soon. These parks will give you a clear impression of what kind of zoos Rainforest stands for, and it is obvious that, at least in terms of scenery, they are among the best the zoo world has to offer. Accordingly, it is to be expected that this entire park here is going to be fundamentally redeveloped in the coming years, meaning the Safari Zoo Mallorca will likely be unrecognizable in the future. For now, however, there are only the first small signs of change. A new virtual reality experience by Bioparc Foundation has been introduced, and the educational keeper talks may already be part of the new concept. Anyway, I really like them, as well as the visitor briefing on respectful behavior at the beginning of the zoo section. The still unfinished new crocodile enclosure was likely initiated before the takeover and is therefore probably not part of the broader redevelopment plan, because, like I said, the change coming here is probably very fundamental. So what do you expect from this redevelopment, and are there other zoos that you think are in a similar need of a complete overhaul? Let me know in the comments, and also tell me whether you would visit the park despite this video, or perhaps even because of it. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. There is a lot more coming, but for now, thank you so much for watching. See you soon, have a good one, auf Wiedersehen, adios amigos, y como alemán pido mil disculpas por todos los idiotas que se comportan mal en Mallorca. Tienes una isla preciosa y con suerte pronto tendrás un zoológico estupendo. Espero verte pronto. Well, I think you can tell that I don't really speak Spanish, but I'm trying my best here. Maybe next time, okay? Maybe next time.